Hey everyone, Myth here, and welcome back to my Completionist playthrough of Icewind Dale. Purist style, insane difficulty, all that. Now, having plundered most of the crypts in the Vale of Shadows, we still have not found any more keys or other items that would help us in breaching the Tomb of Kreselak. And so, here we stand in front of an ominous, more prominent mausoleum, which, by the looks of it, could hold treasures sacred to these risen undead. It is there that we hope to find what we're looking for. And this tomb is sometimes called the Temple of Myrkul, and we'll be able to see why once we step inside. Let's just wait for our song to trigger, because of course you know there will be some fighting to be done. But first we are immediately accosted by this undead guardian of this crypt, saying, "You are not welcome here. Leave this place." And he will urge us to do so quite a few times over the course of this conversation. And as you'll see, he will be quite monotonous in his way of speaking, but I think it's very fitting for an undead creature like him to be very single-minded and focused on his one task. He's not quite like a golem in the way he's going to be speaking, but there are some similarities there, and I think it works here. And here, if we say that we have no intention of leaving here, of course, it will end up in hostilities immediately. But we will conduct this conversation differently. Of course, I will showcase it fully, presenting all of the options that we can go through. And as you will see near the end of this conversation, there will be something more interesting and lesser known, I think. So first, let's start out with asking, who are you? I am Therik. My brethren and I guard this crypt against intruders. Leave this place. Why am I not welcome here? You are not one of the faithful. Only a follower of the faith may enter here. Leave this place. What faith is it that you speak of? Myrkul, Lord of the Dead, holds sway here. Embrace Myrkul, become one of the brethren. Then you will be welcome among us. Otherwise, leave this place. Become undead, is that what you were saying? Yes, embrace Myrkul, become one of the brethren. Otherwise, leave this place. So, as you were able to see, quite focused on trying to get us to leave. But he mentioned Myrkul a couple of times now, and I think this is going to be the appropriate time to say a few words about this god. The Lord of Bones, who is the reigning god of the dead at this point. By the time the events of Baldur's Gate come around, nearly a century after this game's plot, his portfolio will have been usurped by Therik, and then later in the timeline, it's given to Kelemvor. But for now, we have Myrkul, who is the evil type of god of the dead, residing in his bone castle that he inherited from his predecessor. But yes, about that. As a mortal, he was a necromancer by the name of Myrkul Bey al-Kursi, and together with his companions, Baal and Bane, he ascended to godhood when the original god of death, Jergal, the Lord of the End of Everything, which is an epic title, by the way. Tired of his godly responsibilities, Jergal willingly stepped down from his position and allowed the three mortals to split his portfolio among themselves, Bane becoming the god of strife, and also tyranny and hatred, Baal becoming the god of murder, and Myrkul the god of the dead. And they were called the Dark Three back then, but later, during the time of troubles, they all perished, becoming known as the Dead Three. And a bit of their story was told in the book History of the Dead Three that you might remember from Baldur's Gate, as it was the objective of Firebead Elvenhair's quest in Beregost, a very fateful selection of reading material. But, and we will meet some more servants of Myrkul a little bit later, and we'll be able to speak about his faithful a little bit more, but I think this is going to be it for now. And now let's continue our conversation with this. I seek the evil that plagues Kuldahar. Would that be you? Quite a direct question. Kuldahar. That name is not familiar to me. I know nothing of Kuldahar. Seek elsewhere. Leave this place. If you are not responsible, then who is? I do not know. I tire of these questions. Leave this place. And of course, like I said, now we're kind of at a crossroads. If we say that we don't want to, he will attack. But if we say this, if we agree, normally it would teleport us right outside of this place. But we need to explore this crypt. We need something from here in order to progress this adventure. But if we agree here while having a certain key, there will be this. Wait, the key. It is in your possession. Give me the key, and then you may leave this place. I don't know how he senses, of course, that we have the key, but what key is it that you speak of? The key. You found it in the statue. Give me the key, and then you may leave this place. Of course, he means the key we got from one of the crypts that we asked Girth about. But yes, can you tell me what this key is for? It unlocks the tomb. You must not enter there. It is forbidden. Give me the key, and then you may leave this place. You can still try to pry some more information. What tomb is it that you speak of? I will not answer. You must not enter there. It is forbidden. Give me the key, and then you may leave this place. And so here, we have to commit to one of those options. But yes, of course, putting 2 and 2 together, he obviously means Kreselak's tomb, and now confirming even more that the key we already have in our possession, we must hold on to. It will be useful in our endeavors. And here, of course, if we refuse to give it up, he will respond with this. Then you shall die. Make peace with your God in what little time you have on this earth. Brethren, slay this intruder. And we can respond with the classic. A phrase that will end many a conversation in this game. We will use this many more times over the course of our playthrough. So be it. Alright, and here, of course, the opponents greeting us are 2 zombies and Therik himself. And when it comes to Therik, he actually has very good physical stats for this time in the game. A low armor class, base THAC0 of 13, which is then boosted by 1 from his high strength, and potentially gets another boost from a high-quality weapon he essentially has 50% chance of spawning with. So, calling him a mini-boss would be a bit of a stretch maybe, but it's certainly a different class of opponent. And of course, normally with an optimized party you don't really feel it, but for us, he will be a force to be reckoned with, that we don't want to engage carelessly. And so for a prominent single-target undead like him, I have prepared some spells, including a secret weapon, the one I didn't want you to see in the previous episode, but we'll get to that in a moment. First, holding out some hope of confronting him in physical combat, I wanted to showcase that possible blindness we can affect the undead with, of course afflicting them not only with the loss of vision, but primarily with a powerful THAC0 and armor class debuff, which is exactly the kind of thing we need to be able to land some hits and hold our own in this fight. So let us try first with one of our Sun Scorches to apply that blindness, and with our other party members, let us try to snipe one of these zombies. Hopefully we can do that quickly in order to have some more space to kite around. And also, looking at these dart amounts, let us quickly replenish our stuff here. And now go into battle. Alright, nice. We were able to snipe one of these zombies, and I think now Rhyntar should step forward to guide this one in a better location, in a more favorable way for us. Unfortunately, Therik saved against our Sunscorch. So let us try with our backup. The chromatic orb that Iris has memorized, of course, since she is level 4, if this chromatic orb successfully lands, it will blind Therik for 4 rounds. Hopefully presenting that effect here. Wow, he is presenting some monstrous saves here. So we will have to resort to our secret weapon after all. And it will have to be our main source of damage against Therik. And here I mean, of course, the mighty magical stone. I am sure that all of the Baldur's Gate enthusiasts are now screaming, "You what? You what, mate?" That's exactly how you sound. But, believe you me, the magical stone of Icewind Dale deserves some respect. And your astonishment was for a good reason, as this spell is terrible in Baldur's Gate. There, all it does is 1d4 damage. Wow. An absolutely underwhelming waste of a memorization slot. However, in Icewind Dale, it's a completely different story. Here, its base damage is 3d4, so quite a bit better already, but when used against the undead, its damage is doubled to 6d4. So 6 to 24 damage with no saving throw, decent cast time, coming from just a lowly level 1 spell, and from a cleric's selection no less, which doesn't offer an abundance of that kind of thing in general. that is a pretty sweet deal. It's also another example of a spell that deals physical damage, crushing in this case, which makes it perfect when used against skeletal undead, and most enemies in general, but there are some that have crushing resistance later on in the game. And the comment here at the end about it being treated as a magical weapon is nonsensical. It's a spell of level 1, which doesn't create a projectile item that would have an enchantment. And in the original description, it said +1 enchanted weapon. Here it's still called a magical weapon. I don't get it. It's just an unnecessary complication in the description of a simple spell. Maybe it was meant to be implemented differently earlier in development or something, but at this point it's just misleading. It hits as a spell and not as a projectile. But anyway, let us unleash it then upon Therik. Let's keep close to him. He has a tendency of switching targets quite frequently in my experience. Alright, 16 crushing damage. Quite nice. Alright, the zombie was the one who switched targets. Which really isn't what we want here. He is near death, so hopefully our party members can finish him off quickly, because I would like to unleash another magical stone here. Because this one was an unsanctioned use of magical stone. What we just experienced. Alright, let's just become more serious, because, yeah, this zombie can be more problematic, I think. Alright, finally he is sniped, and I don't hold much hope of actually hitting with our attacks here, but let's keep trying anyway. Alright, 20 crushing damage from the mighty magical stone. Seals the deal. Seals Therik's fate. And here let's wait for the combat music to die down, because there is already much to discuss. Because Therik has a random drop, but before we talk about his random drop, I thought we could take advantage of the prime opportunity here to explain how random drops actually work and how exactly you can reload for a different one if you'd like. Most random drops spawn during the first load of a particular map, when the contents of containers are generated and most creatures are spawned. So after we've entered the location for the first time, those drops will have been determined. However, sometimes you can have a situation where a monster carrying a random drop may spawn later, as part of an ambush, for example. And that's exactly how one important drop works in Chapter 3. It's very easy to reload for if you save just before spawning that ambush. In that same chapter, there's also an opposite situation, with a certain creature spawning long before the eventual fight we'll have with it. So that drop is settled way before that creature's demise. So there you would have to check for its drop much earlier. But in most cases, all you need to do is save before entering the area for the first time, to have that checkpoint to go back to and load the map again if it didn't provide you with your desired items. And here, obviously, Therik's drop is very easy to manipulate that way, as he's right there at the very start of the map. So very easy to check what he has. And when it comes to his random drop, it will be 1 out of 5 options, as always presented in a list going from best to worst for us. And the first and the only good drop for us is the Ring of the Warrior, which gives a bonus of +1 Thaco, by far the most universally useful item from this pile. It's nothing spectacular, but it's a combat boost that we could certainly use. And it's equipable by anyone, so its versatility and longevity are huge. And all the other drops will have basically no actual utility for us, so the amount they sell for will be the factor determining their position on the list. And as such, the Finest Halberd will be next. It's another nice option for a halberd user, not only giving the +2 Thaco, customary to the finest weapons, but also 10% slashing resistance, because why not, apparently. And for us it's here just because it sells for almost 500 at Conlan's, or almost 800 in Chapter 3. Next up we'll have the Potion of Action Transference. There's a few potions like that in Icewind Dale that enable some interesting stat modifications. This one is the weakest though. Giving up a point of dexterity for a point of charisma is only ever useful if you wanted to build a natural 20 charisma character, not having to rely on friends to get optimal discounts, or not being able to do so depending on your party composition. And the most realistic option then would be to go up to 19 charisma from your natural 18 using this potion, and then equipping one of the items with +1 charisma on them. There's only a few in the game, and most become available very late or cost a ton of money, with the exception of a guaranteed headpiece in Chapter 3 that can be worn by anyone. So that would be the way, I guess, but obviously a very fringe use. And aside from that, it sells for 400 everywhere, so not bad for that compared to the other drops here. And by the way, just like the Ring of the Warrior, this item has the same price here and in Chapter 3, because Auric, Oswald, and the Chapter 3 Merchant all have the same buy markup. It's only Conlon who has a worse one. So primarily for weapons and armor, there is that big difference. Or for potions that Oswald already has in his stock, making it so that price depreciation comes into play. That was the case with the Potion of Agility and Mummy's Tea, and that we talked about in earlier episodes. Anyway, next up we have the Phase Dagger. Yet another dagger. Aren't you glad? Well, technically, Asathi can now make use of melee daggers like this one to a slight degree, but obviously we don't want to see any such weapons. And it's pretty bad too. It's actually not magically enchanted. Its enchantment level is 0. It has no bonus to Thaco or physical damage, just a small chance to deal 5 magical damage over 10 seconds. And it only sells for 225 in Kuldahar, or 360 if you wait until Chapter 3, so it lands here, and suffice to say, I am afraid. I am afraid, guys. And finally, the Flawless Two-Handed Axe is dead last. Absolutely no use for us, and it sells the worst out of the whole bunch. Just 200 in Kuldahar, or 320 in Chapter 3, so that's even worse somehow. And also, Therik's second drop is his weapon, and out of those options, the high-quality swords can sell for some gold, especially the Bastard Sword, but that's about it. So anyway, let us check what we got here. Wow. Isn't that just the saddest drop you've ever seen? That's hard to even comment on. Just a standard battle axe, and of course the worst option, the Flawless Two-Handed Axe. Oh yeah! So happy about that. Missing out on that Ring of the Warrior. Oh man, of course normally, going back to that, conversation about reloading for random drops, obviously in the vast majority of cases you would want to reload for that ring. But for us, now we have to turn our attention to the fun gameplay, I guess, that awaits us from here on out to improve our mood. We'll use a cool spell combo, something that I thought makes a lot of sense to showcase here. Because here we have this bridge, a long, narrow corridor, and on the other side of it, there are plenty of undead kind of scattered around. But we have to kind of go in there, cross that bridge, to pull a lot of the ones on the outskirts, placed further away. And sometimes pathfinding can become an issue here, but also we can kind of use it to your advantage if fighting directly. If you position your frontliner kind of tank in this choke point, usually only 2 opponents will be able to hit you at once. Sometimes if they position in a certain way, I think 3 can reach you, but usually it's going to be 2. And I guess we can present that a little bit. Let's just see that, or confirm that now Rhyntar will be able to see that on the other side of this passage there will be a horde of undead. So he will step back, but we will have a few of them coming in. Let's use our last Sunscorch here to snipe this ghoul. We'll see about that third magical stone. As you could see, it is precious, and there are a few more prominent targets that we could use that magical stone on. But yeah, with our other party members, let us start attacking, and I didn't renew our song after casting Chromatic Orb. Now I'm noticing it. As always, the most optimal gameplay with me here. Alright, at least this ghoul was blinded. For once, we can actually showcase this debuff. Hopefully he turns right back and goes the other way to allow us to fight these other opponents. But no, he's actually continuing his walk this way. Alright, now he's going to lose our scent. Alright, this guy I think has a two-handed sword, so let us be more careful with him. And yes, now... Oh, he's going back a long way, I guess. But now we will get into our special spell combo. That will, of course, require a few explanations about the new spells and resources that we will use. And the main component of this spell combo will be Web. And when it comes to this spell, it's similar to Entangle in how it works, but the big difference is that instead of just holding the targets in place, it completely disables them. So no ability to act, they will suffer automatic hits, and so on. And compared to Baldur's Gate, it lost its natural -2 save penalty, but since we're casting it with an Invoker, we can kind of restore it that way. We'll have our own -2 save penalty, basically. And also, this means that the skeletons, whose save versus spell is 19, cannot resist it and will always get stuck in the web. And that's because saving throws don't have a critical success or critical failure mechanic. If a save is good enough or bad enough, you can guarantee the result of it. But anyway, web is a different type of effect than hold or paralyze or stun, so it works against the undead, but on the other hand, there are whole groups of giant creatures who are immune to both entangle and web, so it's not always viable. Here, of course, for us is going to be a method of crowd control that we will unleash, but since I mentioned that we have to pull some of those opponents from further away, we are also going to use this precious potion of freedom. I think it's going to be warranted to showcase it already here. It will grant Asathi, who will be our main agent in this task, free action for 2 hours, so of course certainly long enough for us to conclude our business here. And free action is a buff that prevents effects altering the ability to move in a broad sense. So any speed reductions like slow or grease, or immobilize effects like hold, paralyze, entangle, and web. And the two big differences compared to Baldur's Gate, both in favor of this version, are that free action in Icewind Dale also blocks stun, and that here it only prevents adverse negative effects, while in Baldur's Gate it blocks all of them, including beneficial ones like haste or improved haste, which makes it not always desirable to have. But in Icewind Dale, it's a no-brainer, an entirely positive buff that you always want to have on your party members, especially the frontline combatants. But in this situation specifically, it will allow Asathi to freely maneuver inside of the web so that she can keep pulling more opponents and bringing them into the kill zone. So let us drink that first before we do anything. And now let us wait a few seconds, because we are also going to want to use another spell this time by Asathi in quick succession. And let us unleash this web. Now we know that there's a multitude of opponents awaiting us on the other side of that bridge. And while Nadimestre is busy with that, we will use this Flame Blade on Asathi. And this is a classic example of using it somewhere before memorizing the better spells. And this is pretty funny here when you look at its description. Kind of role-playing description. And then this, that it's not a magical weapon in the normal sense of the term, whatever that's supposed to mean. So yeah, this sword-shaped living flame she summoned out of thin air, not a magical weapon. It sounds funny, but it just means that it has no enchantment. It has an enchantment level of 0, just like non-magical weapons. Just game logic. Now, when it comes to its mechanics, first off, there's an error in the description here, saying it deals a base of 2 fire damage, while it's actually 4. And it's kind of surprising, because in classic Icewind Dale, the description was correct about it, although it was kind of a mess in some other ways. And its damage is set up a bit differently to how it works in Baldur's Gate, but it ends up being basically the same when used against the undead, to whom it receives a bonus here of further 2 fire damage. But the big difference is that it uses the scimitar proficiency here, thanks to which it can receive damage and Thaco benefits, as well as have more attacks. And of course, the flip side is that if you're not proficient in scimitars like Asathi, then you'll suffer a Thaco penalty. And this is exactly why we're going to use it the way we are, where it will be irrelevant, because of course webbed enemies will be automatically hit, so her atrocious Thaco won't be a deterrent, and we can kind of use the novelty of, you know, it being more effective against undead here. Give it a nice presentation. Alright, here we have our web deployed. Let's switch to some ranged weapons and start kind of moving forward. Asathi will bravely venture inside of the web, and as you can see, the skeletons get immediately caught in its effect. Let's just try to go in there in an organized manner, not to block ourselves. There is a ghoul who had a very, very small chance of resisting that web. Of course, it's that same ghoul we have almost finished off, and we will talk about such creatures and their save versus spell a little bit later. But yeah, here most of the... well, every other opponent is a skeleton, which of course cannot resist, so we can safely take them from afar, but we have to, you know, be efficient with our attacks. Okay, Nadimastria is blocked. We have to be efficient because, of course, that is a lot of skeletons, a lot of HP to burn through. Even though we are, of course, succeeding with all of our attacks. They have that resistance to all physical damage except crushing. It will still take us a little bit of time, and web only stays for 10 rounds. So we need to be efficient. Let's also check. Okay, there's another skeleton there. Let's bring him over. Alright, nice. And I think... alright, this will be all of them. Alright, so we managed to do it in time. I think this web should expire soon.
I'm listening.
And of course our flame blade also expired. Alright, now we can safely cross to the other side. There's going to be plenty of non-magical weapons for us to loot and stash in a place a little bit further up ahead, but here, usually to the north of that group, yeah, there's a more prominent ghoul. So now let's take him on safely from afar. Alright, and we get a level up for Rhyntar. Here, level 4, this will not include any major boosts for Rhyntar this time, so besides the static increases in a few areas like +1 Taco, you know, +2 to his lay on hands, the most important thing, of course, is to keep building that health pool. His previous level ups were 7 and then 4 HP. It would be nice to bounce back from that last underwhelming amount, so come on, let's go. Let's see what we got here. I don't even want to say anything. I'm gonna give Rhyntar the silent treatment from now on, I think. Rhyntar, what have you done? I mean, why does this game keep personally antagonizing me? It's Beshaba who is hell-bent on destroying us. That's what it is. After we mocked her a few times and celebrated the demise of her worshipper Redani, she has vowed to bring misfortune and misery upon us. Or maybe it's just a couple random outcomes that didn't go our way. I don't know. It's a few too many for my taste. Oh man, this episode only just started and is a complete catastrophe already. Well, whatever. I guess it's all designed to test our potential. Let's think of it that way. Oh man, Rhyntar, you have an entirety of 23 hit points now. That's so sick. Anyway, let's pick up some of those non-magical weapons. Bray, can you... Alright, you're a little encumbered, but you're going to be able to bring this to this...
Orders understood.
To this little stash that we will loot for this cooler looking helmet. There's also a normal longsword that we will leave there.
I'm listening.
And this cooler looking helmet we can give to Galburin. I guess he might rock this for a while. Yeah, this will fit him nicely. Bray, of course, will deposit everything into that container. This, like, high-quality mace we will not be using on her for a long time. Any of that kind of weapons. So we can leave it there to sell later. And here we can inspect some of our surroundings. There's not going to be too many new descriptions in this crypt, but there's also another task for Bray because we are coming upon a trap that she will nicely disarm for us. And here, before we descend this big stairway, Let us defer to something that the ancient Romans used to say. Omne trinum perfectum. Everything that comes in threes is perfect. And here I mean our trinity of early game buffs. Our song, the Ballad of Three Heroes, our bless, and our chant. And basic buff package in the early game that allows us to somewhat perform in direct combat to a certain extent while we have those effects active. Because as we descend these stairs, there's going to be a couple of more loose, smaller groups of undead. And before we unleash our bigger spells, we will have some direct combat to do here. So let us boost ourselves with our chant. Let's also play a nice melody on our flute. Let us properly re-engage our song here, and now when we have these buffs, let us proceed forward. And take... oh, okay, there's quite a few of them back there. Didn't necessarily mean to pull so many of them, but we have to deal with it now. Alright, we might even engage in some direct fighting, perhaps. Do the unthinkable, the crazy thing. On here also, when you stand in this place, the automatic AI that usually like switches between targets as they die, if you have more people selected and tell them to attack, it kind of fizzles out because there are more opponents down there that are not in our vision, and we can't attack them. And I think the AI wants to attack them. It cannot, so they just stop attacking altogether. So we have to be cautious. We have to be careful to manually direct our attacks or assign our party members to attack properly. And here that we see many of those opponents approaching us, I think it is going to be time for Nadimastria to already unleash her second web. Here just as far as she can in front. Here as we descend these stairs we will keep activating guys from down there, so let's do it in a methodical manner. And here we will also use something else new on Asathi. I thought it would be a good time to memorize Barkskin, to showcase it here, of course, before we basically start memorizing more effective spells, but here I think we will be able to get some value out of it. It is a spell that improves armor class and gives a boost to all saves except save versus spell. And the armor class buff slowly grows with level. Never a great spell, but since it just reached its first improvement with Asathi being level 4, I thought I would add it to the mix to provide her with some an additional layer of safety here, where we will have quite a few opponents that will have a chance of resisting even an Invoker's Web. A small chance, but still, there will be a few of those more prominent guys that might save against it, and if Asathi is close, they might launch a swing at her, and we want to, of course, minimize the chances it will connect. And also, since she still has that free action active, of course, as she will not be paralyzed by any stray attacks coming from ghouls and ghasts, so that's a nice plus for us. But yeah, let's apply that Barkskin onto Asathi. And then let's go, go, go! Let's move closer to that web, and now let's try to get some guys into its effect. Let's switch our weapons properly, and now let's start attacking. And once Asathi's round comes to a close in a few seconds, we will use our second use of Flame Blade, just to get enough mileage of that novelty. Use it against the undead who can't avoid those attacks. Oh, come on, Web. Doesn't sometimes trigger immediately, especially I think in these like changes of... when the terrain changes into different heights, I think they might kind of skip a trigger, and we have to wait for the second round for it to activate. It's not because they are saving, as you can see. There is no message. There cannot possibly be a message for them to have saved against spell. But anyway, we have this Ghast there, so let's focus on him. Before he possibly saves, he actually, like I said, does have a chance of doing so. And as these other guys are busy fighting, let's pull some more guys. There's going to be 4 of these lesser shadows in total. Guys, why are you... Yeah, this positioning of this web, I think I should have cast it at the bottom, where there are no changes in height. Alright, finally, because I think, yeah, they also didn't save, it just didn't trigger on them. And so Asathi unfortunately had to suffer 10 damage. We will take care of that soon. Not after she unleashes some of her anger on these guys. Alright, not anymore though. We have to resume our kiting. Yeah, Bark Skin expired, so she is quite vulnerable. But fortunately we have some heals memorized on Galburin. It's again that level 2 kind of cure moderate wounds before we memorize better spells. We can use that one to heal up Asathi. And she will be okay. And now we will get back to having Rhyntar in front. And we now should deal with a couple of those last stragglers here. Let's try to kill one of them before we have to engage directly. Well, almost achieved that. Alright, more suffering for Rhyntar. Alright, and seeing that he still is at a very low HP amount in total. 23 HP, man. So let's heal him up to full and bring this... I think this is going to be the last guy. Yeah. This ghoul. To just kite him entirely. Alright, and now we will be done with everything this crypt has to offer. A few more descriptions, they're all the same. But a couple stashes to loot. So let's get what we can retrieve from there, and then we will look at our spoils once we have all of them. And here we will have to disarm another trap.
Understood.
And yes, now we can take a closer look. Oh yeah, this flawless two-handed axe we can transfer. There's also a dagger +1, nothing special. Then we have this broken armor. There will be more of such broken armors later on in the game, and actually there they have a bit of a purpose, but here this one just sells for 200 gold. It weighs a little bit though, so we will of course deposit it in one of our stashes to sell later. Then we have 3 spells: Invisibility, Chill Touch, and Color Spray. And this is not the last scroll of Color Spray, so we might even gamble perhaps and try to scribe it raw on Iris, so that she already has this option at her disposal. But for now, let's transfer them all into our scroll case. We'll think about such risks later. And then we have 2 potions: a potion of Insulation, just 50% electrical resistance. Not too useful in many situations, but still something to hold on to. And then we have this potion of strength that sets our strength to 18, just the basic 18. So it's not as significant of a resource as the potions of agility, but it's still going to represent a moderate boost for our frontliners that, of course, don't get any benefits from strength. It will give them +1 Thaco and +2 damage, and of course boost their carrying capacity quite a bit. So this will have... of course, a multitude of benefits, and we will use it at a more opportune time. And finally here, this is what we came here for, this Sanctum Key. And here, even without the expert knowledge of Gertz, we will know it's certainly one of those special keys needed for Kreselak's tomb, as it is an ornate silver key with a red gemstone in the handle. Closer inspection reveals a small skull has been carved into the gem. So very fitting for Myrkul, of course, and now we know that we likely have all of the different resources that we could have obtained here in order to finally be able to attack Kreselak's tomb. Let us get these non-magical weapons to deposit in this stash on the way. And here I'm not teleporting. Okay, this is actually quite heavy because these flails are so heavy. Right now, she should be able to make her way into this stash. Animascha, don't be a bother. I can even deposit these drops. We will need the carrying capacity. And we will, of course, retrieve all of that stuff on our way back to Kuldahar. But yeah, I was saying that I'm here going back because a few of these skeletons here are not positioned directly up on the map, but in the form of a few spawn points. And sometimes they don't spawn properly. And also that means that sometimes when you come back to this crypt, there can be a couple of skeletons wandering around. And that's because of, you know, these spawn points. And this is something that I want to discuss as our next topic, because as we will make our way closer to Kreslak's tomb, you will be able to notice likely some more opponents on our way, even though we have cleared the path previously.
I'm listening. Done.
But let us first see that
Ready. Done.
with our own eyes.
Right guard here. Understood.
Yeah, there's this shadow, and there might be another one further up north, but yeah, first let's take care of him. Let's get our song back in order again. And now I guess it's time to fight directly. Alright, nice crit from Galburin. Seals the deal here. Oh, yeah, let's just make sure there's maybe, yeah, one other guy.
Here. Understood.
Let's try to kite further away.
I'm here.
And here, let's start attacking. Alright, there we go. So, even though we have cleared this path before, there were some new enemies. That's because there are a few spawn points here in the Vale of Shadows, for shadows specifically, but only these ones here in the northeastern region actually work. The other ones, you know, even though there are a few more all across the Vale, they just don't work. And that's the case in the Enhanced Edition too. Even though it incorporates most of the Unfinished Business mod, it doesn't include the component that restores or activates those other spawn points. And it's something that you can still install on the Enhanced Edition. And it's not included baseline, supposedly because of difficulty reasons, but in my opinion it makes things easier, and that's why I didn't install it. Because of course, as we've been able to see in these past episodes, these shadows, if you take them carefully, methodically, they are not difficult opponents, but they allow you to obtain some more experience. Which brings me to my next point. Even though Icewind Dale is a linear game and has mostly set opponents, you can still farm experience in it through rest interruptions. And here in the Vale, in the smaller crypts, you can actually rest safely, and we will take advantage of that. But when you rest outside or in that Yeti cave, you can get ambushed by Yetis, allowing you to farm experience and Yeti pelts. And normally there's 22 pelts in this section of the game, and after setting aside the 10 needed to craft the armor, there's 12 that we will sell in bulk. But of course, if you so choose, you could farm for more, so to sell the full 16 in one go, or even more pelts afterwards. It's not a very good moneymaker, mind you, but it is an option. And those ambush Yetis have slightly better stats, but grant the same experience. And when mentioning those rests in the smaller crypts, we will present that. And I think we will choose this one, the coziest crypt, I think, for our safe rest here. I guess these crypts are small enough that when cleared out of undead, there's nothing else threatening us there. Nothing else that could possibly interfere with us getting our beauty sleep. So here, hiding in this alcove, we might deem this a safe enough spot to catch a quick nap, because as usual, in between episodes, before the next stage of our adventure, in which we will attack Kreslak's tomb, I will, of course, choose the appropriate spells for that purpose, and then next episode we will start here, you know, catch a quick nap, I guess, and go from there. So for now, I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you next time.